But I'd
Very
like
good.
to call to order our meeting of the SRWA. It is 12 something right now,
12:04.
12:04. And can we confirm that we have a quorum? Okay, great, great. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comments? No, nobody wants to say anything. Oh, and here's Ralph. Okay, no public comments. We'll wait a couple seconds, let Ralph catch up, and then we'll. Howdy, young man.
Very good.
So now, item number 1 is consideration and possible action on the approval of December 4th, 2023 board meeting minutes.
I so move. Second.
We have a motion to approve and we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, action item number 2, the general manager's report.
Good afternoon, Dr. Holman and members of the committee. We have the operational report with Mr. Garza and Mr. Rangel providing both the operational report and financial report.
Hello, my name is Jose Armando Garza, and I'll be presenting the production and distribution report for the month ended December 31st, 2023. And this is going to be on the tab 2 of your board binder. I'm going to start on column C with the year-to-date production, and that's at 617.597 million gallons, or an average of 6.713 million gallons per day. Under column F, we have the distribution for Brownsville, and that the year-to-date is 535.646 million gallons, or an average of 5.822 million gallons per day. Under column G, we have the distribution for Balima number 2, and the year-to-date is 14.341 million gallons, or an average of 0.156 million gallons per day. Under column H, we have the distribution for Tira Los Fresnos, and the year-to-date is 53.404 million gallons, or an average of 0.58 million gallons per day. Under column I, we have the credit for B&D, and the year-to-date is 12.970 million gallons, or an average of 0.141 million gallons per day. Under column J, we have the allocation for Indian Lake, and the year-to-date is 1.236 million gallons, or an average of 0.013 million gallons per day. Below that, we have the true-up estimate. As you can see, BPUV is under by 38.16 million. Dalimar is under by 1.16 million. And the City of Los Fresnos is over by 39.32 million. Following page, we have the production and distribution for December 2023. And on the third column from the left, we have the monthly production, and that was at 211.568 million gallons, or an average of 6.825 million gallons per day. And in the column to the far right, we have the water distributed for December, and that was at 209.05 million gallons, or an average of 6.742 million gallons per day. Below that, we have the chemical consumption for December. And on chemicals, the plant spent $86,189.88. And below that is the electric consumption, and that was at 125.94.86. Any questions? The following page, staff reports events that reduce our water production. And for December, there's 2 events. One on the 4th, we had a scheduled shutdown to replace broken valves out in the distribution system. And the same on the 15th, we also replaced the remaining valves on that day. So we were done for 6 hours each day, for a total of 12 hours for the month.
So you had to shut down the entire system to replace these valves?
Yes, our distribution system, distribution guys that were doing the work decided it would be better yet to shut the whole system.
It was one well or it was several?
It was 4 valves that are being serviced by different branches of the well field. So that's why we shut down the whole system. On the following page, we're tracking the production and distribution comparing fiscal year 2024 to 2023. And you can see we're there. And on the following page, this is the water, tracking the water production from the three Brownsville water plants. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Question. When everything is up to date with the wells, will the water production increase?
Yeah, we're gonna cover that in the presentation that Yuli's gonna do, but the answer is no, it didn't increase. No. Apparently they were maybe closed, but on the open, not on, they were not broken and that closed. So the flow didn't increase.
So during the shutdown, we were still able to supply Los Fresnos, the city of Los Fresnos, with water?
Yes,
Because I
yes,
know right now-
we normally have our storage tank full, so we had enough water to continue,
Okay.
distributing water out.
Do we have numbers for how long we can be shut down before it's a problem for distribution for specifically the city of Los Fresnos?
Yeah, the tank can hold us for probably approximately 24 hours.
24 hours, got it.
Do you have to always shut down the whole system to fix one valve?
No. For this instance, the distribution people, I guess, recommended to shut the whole system. But we can actually shut down a whole branch. Some of those branches have 2 wells, some of them have 3 wells, and we can operate that way. But for this instance, they decided to shut down the whole system.
I think it'd be a good idea to have all the valves so you could shut off the water, not shut down that well and shut that off
Yeah.
and have the rest of the system working so that you could.
Yeah, and I don't have the quote here from the department. But because they would have the more specifics on why they decided to shut down the whole system.
That's just an observation.
Yes, yes, I understand.
I would like to see the analysis conducted, like the decision-making process for this, because, 6 hour shutdown of the entire system is a non-negligible event. I'm not saying that it was bad, just,
Right.
would like to understand the logic behind it.
Is the hours that you have marked down as the downtime, is that including the startup time again to put you back online?
Yeah, that includes that. And that starting time is approximately an hour.
Yeah.
So that's pretty impressive. I mean, okay, they shut the whole system down. I have a couple questions about that, but the idea that they could cut the valve out, put in a new valve and do that within about 5 hours. That's pretty good.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Monica Cavazos, Director of Finance at Brownsville QB. And I'll be presenting the financial performance for the month ended December 31st. We're looking at the far right column, the year-to-date numbers. You see that we had member assessments. Our operating revenues from member assessments totaled $1,952,894. We then had our total operating expenses, which includes personnel, materials and supplies, repairs and maintenance, contractual and other services and our depreciation of $1,435,114, which left us operating income of $517,780. We then adjust this number with our non-operating revenues of 16,700 net non-operating revenues of $16,763. Gave us income before capital contributions of $534,543. There were no capital contributions year to date, so that gave us a change in net position of $534,543. When added to the net position at the beginning of the year of $22,764,917, gives us a net position at the end of the period of $23,299,460. Subsequent pages have details on specific accounts, all of the operating and maintenance accounts. But if you have any questions, there's historical information on the budget information. If you've got any specific questions on a particular account or any other questions on the year-to-date financials.
I have none.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item. Mr. Santillan.
Good afternoon. My name is Jorge Santillan, Treasury and Accounting Manager. This is the quarterly investment report as of quarter ended December 31st, 2023. And this is in compliance with Texas Government Code, Section 2256.023. Looking at page number 1, this is a summary of the on the table, a summary of the investment portfolio, beginning with bank deposits at Wells Fargo, the first column. The market value on the third column, $170,366.51. The percentage of portfolio was 1.42%. This on the third to the last column. The yield to maturity combined is 4.28%. That's on the second to the last column. Next, certificates of deposit. Total market value, $2,872,000. Percentage of portfolio, 23.97. Yield to maturity, 5.58. Followed by investment pools. Market value, $7,416,443.86. 61.89 as a percentage of the portfolio, and the yield to maturity, 5.50. Money market. Market value, $880,040 with 73 cents. 7.34 as a percentage of the portfolio. Yield to maturity, 5.25. And lastly, the U.S. Treasury notes and bills with a market value of $645,170. 50 cents, 5.38 as a percentage of portfolio with a yield to maturity of 5.45. Looking at the total market value, $11,984,021.60 with a yield to maturity 5.48.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Think maybe on this report, you could put up there what the interest rate we're getting on these.
Yes, on the following page, there's the detail.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is the detail. On lines 1, 2, and 3, that's the bank deposits, Wells Fargo. The very last column is on page number 2. Last column, you have the yield to maturity for Wells Fargo. We had the insured at 5.20%, the yield, and then the Wells Fargo, the checking account, 1.65 yield. The combined is about 4.28 as shown in the previous page. Certificates of deposit, lines 4 to 16. They range from 5.35 to 5.95, shown on the last column again. Investment pools, lines 17 through 25. The yield ranging from 5.38 to 5.79. The U.S. Bank money market, the yield at 5.25. and the US Treasury note, Treasury bill, with a yield of 5.45. Again, the yield, the total weighted average yield was 5.48. The other information is supplemental information, and do you have any questions on the pages I cover or any other section?
I have one little question, and that is on item number 2, the collateralized. What is the difference between your insured and your collateralized?
Yeah,
account?
the insured is like the investment, but it's like an investment, money that we don't need immediately. The in line number 2, that's the day-to-day money that we're gonna need in the next day, 2 days. So
That's what the checking
the
account.
checking account correctly.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's why I was trying to figure out what.
Yes,
Okay, and so we get 1.65 on that, and we get 5.2 on the others.
yes.
Thank you.
You. Any other questions?
Any questions?
No.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item right now is the update on optimization study. As you're aware, we've had a couple of optimizations, and Ms. Judy Adams is going to be presenting on that item, and you can follow along in your packet as well.
Good afternoon, board members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to provide an update, maybe not on the study itself, but on what we're doing as far as now that the study's been completed. Okay. So like I've just mentioned, the final study report for the optimization has been completed. It was presented in January as 100% complete. And just as a reminder about the study, I want to remind y'all that there was 15 projects that were recommended out of the study. 11 of those projects were in tier 1. Those were considered to be the most important projects to be completed. There was $31.494 million worth of capital cost. That was the estimated capital for completing those projects. I did pull a couple of the projects because those would be funded from O&M. There's approximately $672,000 worth of projects that would come out of O&M. Of the $672,000, $72,000 of that was just the cleaning chemicals for cleaning more often. And then the RO membranes, as you may recall, we have a sinking fund or an operating fund where we put in money every year to replace the membranes. And right now, we have 765,000, a little bit over 765,000 in that fund. So we would have the money when we're ready to replace those membranes. And then in tier 2, we have 3 projects for a capital cost of $342,000. And then finally, remember in the study, we had an overall electrical system reliability lump set of projects that totaled $14.4 million. So that's just an overview. And next I want to cover another background issue, and I want to talk about the phases of SRWA. The original plant was constructed in 2004. It was originally designed for 7.5 million gallons. Then we expanded, I guess you could call it phase 2, where we added microfiltration, pretreatment, and we added RO to expand the total capacity to 10. So I've put that in the little table. So this is where we see the design on the original plant was 7.5. The most that we could really produce was 6 million gallons per day. Original cost was 29 million. It included 6 RO trains. You may recall in 2006, EPA came out with the arsenic rule. And because of that, we weren't able to blend part of the stream around the RO. So we were basically limited to the 6 million gallons per day. In 2015, we completed the pretreatment, microfiltration and RO expansion. It was completed with a design capacity, nameplate capacity of 10. And the most that we've been able to produce is about 7.3 million gallons per day. The cost of that project was 11.7. It included 5 microfiltration trains and 2 RO trains. So next we have, basically a couple of choices. We can either do optimization only, or we can do 3B, which is optimization and expanding SRWA either to 12 or 20, whatever design capacity makes the most sense for the future. So this is where we are right now. And I just wanted to provide this as a backdrop. Hopefully this is helpful to you going forward. Okay, you may recall that the study included these 15 projects, and so we're going to be going through each of these projects. And, there's quite a few, and it's a lot of money, a lot of capital that's involved in optimizing SRWA to the full 10 MGD capacity. So what I've done for you, just to kind of make it clear in my mind, was I separated the projects by different areas of specialty. For instance, there's 3 projects that are related to operations, such as the microfiltration clean in place. Then there's 5 projects that are related to SCADA. These are the recommendations that Carollo had come up with, such things as well-field, programmable logic controllers. Sorry, this is a mouthful of acronyms, but I'll go into more detail as we go through those. And I will let you know more or less where we're prioritizing some of these projects. Next, we have water wastewater engineering. There's 6 projects, 6 projects that will require design specifications and plans so that we can go out for bids. Because these are requiring design changes, we will have to contract this out to an engineer to bid out. And then we have the electrical system improvements. Going pretty fast, so okay. Okay, let's talk about these as a group. Now, starting with the operations, we have the microfiltration clean in place. And if you recall, there is a chart on the right or a figure on the right that's showing one of the racks. And Carollo had recommended, and if you recall, that there was some iron fouling in the microfiltration racks. So they had recommended more frequent cleaning. And so what we've done is we've gone to a more frequent cleaning or clean in place on the microfiltration racks to try to achieve the 7.0 permeability in each rack. And we have achieved that for 4 of the 5 racks. We still are struggling a little bit with rack 5. So we picked that up a bit. Jacob reported this morning that he was able to achieve that 7.0 permeability. So we think we're getting close. So that was item 4 on the study. Then we had.
Are we seeing a difference in iron fouling? Sorry for interrupting.
That's right.
Iron fouling, now that you're kind of reducing some of the dosage of the chemicals?
No, well, you mean as far as ferric chloride, we just started lowering the ferric chloride.
Oh, okay.
Right.
So TBD.
Right. We had started with chlorine dioxide and sodium bisulfite solutions, and now we're
Okay.
honing in on that ferric chloride dosage.
Great. I mean, and doing them each separately like that helps because now we kind of get a sensitivity matrix. I like that. Okay.
All right. So the RO replacement, what we've decided to do with that is not proceed until we get that permeate piping modification completed, because until then we may still have chlorine coming back to those membranes. So we want to wait until that project is completed. And then we have item 14 of the study, which was doing clean in place of the RO membrane. So we have that 38% completed. We've done 3 of the 8 RO trains cleaned. And so we have still another 5 that we hope to have cleaned by the end of February. All right. So right now we're working with water wastewater engineering, and we're working with Carollo for a packet of designing projects. The first one being the number 1 item that was identified as being the most important, which was the RO permeate piping. And I don't know if y'all recall that, but essentially the piping on the degasifier was a little higher than what's the permeate piping coming out of the RO. So when the plant shuts down, some of that flow goes back into the ROs, and we believe that the oxidation that was happening in the RO membranes was caused by that backflow. And so this project would prevent that from happening by making the piping coming out of the RO plant a little higher, and also putting a check valve in place. So that's estimated to cost $142,000. So what we plan to do with that project is to reallocate from some of the projects in the current budget and fund that project immediately. The next item that Corolla is going to be working on, and this is the packet that will be a second packet, but it'll have the microfiltration transfer pump. And so I've inserted a picture, and I'm sorry, I haven't really been explaining too many of the pictures, but this is the transfer pump station or booster station. And it's in between the microfiltration plant and the RO plant. So it boosts up the flow of the water and meets the demand for the ROs so that there's this break tank in between the two facilities, and the pressure is boosted up to feed the ROs. So we do currently have 40,000 in the budget in the SRWA capital budget. So we've got the 40,000, but we're going to need another 535,000 that we're going to have to reallocate from the current budget. And then we have post-treatment chemical flow dosing, which is actually a SCADA function, and the pre-treatment chemical flow dosing. Because it does require design, we want to include that in something that we do immediately. So those are the 4 projects that are going to be designed shortly. We'll be bringing to you a design proposal from Corolla to proceed with the design of these projects. And I know I'm kind of going into great detail. If you have questions, please stop me.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, sir.
Oh, but Ralph, can I get you to speak into the microphone in case?
Certainly, I
Thank
do
you.
apologize because I do have trouble hearing people, and I want to make sure people can hear me. Thank you. And I apologize for being a little bit late. Traffic lights on Boca Chica are not what they were, and my timing wasn't either. So I do apologize for that. The thing that I have here is, before we go forward here, I was looking at the phases of the 1, 2, and 3A and B.
Oh, yeah.
What we're planning on spending, and when we get to, this is not any new, it was to add 20 wells. But, I was just wondering, because 3A, to get 2.7 million more gallons a day, which is not a significant amount, and to spend $32 million, doesn't seem to be a good ROI on that. But I don't know. But I was wondering what the percentage of salinity is in the water that we're discharging after it's been through the RO. If we had another way to capture that water and treat it again, it might be cheaper than digging 20 and maintaining 20 wells. Something that, I'm not an engineer, I'm just looking at, for treating water, I don't know what the salinity of the water is, but the idea is to take the salinity out so that you can have usable water. I don't know what the percentage is.
Well, I can tell you that the TDS, the total dissolved solids coming out of the concentrate, is anywhere from 12,000 to 14,000 milligrams per liter, probably closer to 14,000. You're talking about a third stage adding, like we have a 2-stage system in the RO. You're talking about a third stage that would take the concentrate, run that through another RO system, and concentrate the salinity even further, and trying to recapture that water.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing all over the world is they're taking salty water and purifying it. And we're doing basically the same thing, except that from what I understand, our discharge is a very low salinity. Or it might be, they consider that prime water somewhere else, maybe, I don't know. It's just a question.
Yeah.
And you don't have to give me an answer right now, because I don't expect you to know that off the top of your head, but I think considering this before going forward with $202 million might be a good idea.
I'll write that down.
Thank you, Judy.
Ms. Judy, I also have an observation.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys are already in that process, but wouldn't we better to try to get to the 10 right now, because we have only been able to do 7.3 in the second phase. And there's a lot of things that we still have issues, like with the wells, with the trains, with the bulbs, all of those little issues that don't allow to increase the production of the water. Also, the doing the protocol to maintain the cleaning, and not only the cleaning, but the maintenance of the wells, instead of jumping to the next phase, the 3A or 3B. I don't know if it's.
Right. Okay,
Maybe.
so try to get some of those things taken care of in optimization to try to increase the volume of treatment. Is that what you're kind of saying?
Yes, because I assume, I don't know, like I said, same as them, I'm not an engineer but I would think that it's gonna be the same issue if we haven't resolved the issues that we have so far with the production and the increase of the water.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting on the valve project that Garza had mentioned to see if we were going to be able to get more flow. The other thing that we're trying to get more flow out of the wells is we want to look into rehabilitating some of those wells and see if we can get more flow out of those wells to increase the capacity of the wells. And I'm going to cover that just briefly later on, but we are looking at some other things to try to get a higher flow without 32 million
Yes,
and
because I
using
know
the
that-
money that we have in the budget currently.
Right now, not all the wells are working. I believe that on the previous meeting, they
Yeah,
mentioned that it was only 13 or 14 out of the 17.
No, it's, we have 20 wells. We typically may have up to 3 wells that are down just because either the motor failed or shorted or the pump needs to be replaced. So typically we'll have up to 3 wells that are out of service. And that's just routine maintenance of replacing the pumps and motors, typically. Yeah,
Yeah, I think that would be one of the things that we need to look,
yeah,
resolving those issues to see if the water we can increase the production of the water instead of making all this investment in going to another phase and spending all this without resolving the current issues.
So
So,
we did, I mean, Corolla, the purpose of the study was to see what we needed to do. And these are their recommendations. Some of them are big ticket items, so yeah, we either will have to apply for a grant or a loan or think about how we're going to proceed, but definitely want to try to get the most out of what we can based on their recommendations. So unfortunately, we can't always keep the 20 wells working because they just go down, and just routine maintenance to have those wells replaced with new pumps and new motors.
so this study has uncovered a lot of lessons learned. We should be treating the wells to keep them from biofouling. Especially if we're using wells probably less because they tend to produce less. I think it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy where you have this negative feedback loop. You're not pulling water through the system as much. You get biofouling. But anyways, long story short, one of the things I would like to see come out of this is action plans. So what is our maintenance schedule for wells? And I know we've talked about it, but I feel like I'll say it again because why not? What is our action plan for treating these wells? Like removing or eliminating biofouling or minimizing biofouling before it occurs. so that, in 20 years, we're not in the same position. But just we have a lot of lessons learned from this optimization study. There've been a lot of things we've figured out about, chemical dosing and the filters and issues that may be caused. Of course, the RO filters and making sure we don't have backflow into them, stuff like that, so that in 20 years, we're further along.
All right, note taken. Okay, let me go back to. Oh, oh. Yeah, I think I was done with that slide. Okay, so. Yeah, I don't have a mouse. Here we go. There we go. All right. So now we're on the SCADA department. We met with the SCADA department, our SCADA department, to see what they could do. These are the items that were listed under SCADA. The well field programmable logic controller, uninterruptible power supply is basically the computer for the well field and a battery backup for the program so that when something happens, we lose power at the well field, we can keep that program going and we can communicate with the well field. So that's that item right there. Instrumentation upgrades. The picture on the right is showing some of the instruments on the RO system. So he's talking about going through there and replacing some of these instruments that are 20 years old on the older RO trains. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an inventory of the instruments, and we're going to try to prioritize just the replacement of those, because that was a significant amount of money. I think, well, we'll show you in a minute, but it was a significant amount of money. We had decided to go with Corollo, since they were already working on some projects, to include items 9 and 11. And this has to do with the chemical flow dosing, so that when the plant shuts down, the chemicals automatically shut down, or if the amount that's the throughput coming through the plant increases or decreases, that chemical dosing matches the flow coming in. So that's going to require some design changes. And then item number 10 is the programmable logic controller input-output spares. And what SCADA wants to do is they want to develop a list of spares, not just the analog input-output, but a list of spares that we should have on hand, regardless of whether they're analog or not. And then the 15th item, which was the large ticket item, to try to do improvements to the electrical system to provide redundancy. What SCADA would like to do is at least build in some redundancy at the high service pumps, because like Garza mentioned, the well field could be down, but you still need to pump out to Valley Bud, Les Fresnos, Brownsville. We still need to pump out. So we want to start there. We want to start with the high service pump system. And that's our SCADA components. So we've been working with finance on the funding issue of some of these projects. I have them listed here. The permeate piping project is projected to be $142,000. So we don't have money from the budget right now, but we want to try to reallocate from our current capital budget to fund this project, because it is the most important one. We have the transfer pump system, which we did have some money. The $40,000 was funded. So we will have to try to find reallocation from the budget, the capital budget, to fund item 6, the second item here, and then the flow dosing, these 2 chemicals. So those 4 projects total $1,490,000. That's currently underfunded right now, but we have identified a project where we can move some money around to try to fund these. One of the things that we've done is we closed 3 capital projects that had been completed, and there was a balance left on the budget. And so we'll be able to use some of that money. And I'm not prepared to go into too much detail, but I can if you want to at another time.
I only request that as we look at moving funding around, which, yeah, I think is completely reasonable, that we make sure we don't, rob from Peter to pay Paul.
All right.
As long as we're not, impacting our reliability. That would be great.
Okay, so back to this list that Corolla provided us with the 15 projects. A check mark is basically we are proceeding with this, moving forward on it. Any questions on this table? I can go through them. I think I have for the most part. All right. Okay, now let's talk about some of the other issues outside the optimization study. Okay, we were just talking about the broken valves in the well field, and I'm going to just show the map real quick. This is the map you may recall. The yellow circles are the valves that were broken. They were spinning in place, so they weren't sure if they were open or closed. And so our operations department went out and replaced those valves. And so we asked Corolla to reevaluate their hydraulic model based on what we were seeing out in the field. And the 4 bullets below the first line are the results of their hydraulic comparison. Yeah. So that what they found was from well number 13, and let me just show you well number 13. Well number 13 is the bottom half, but the far right. You'll see number 13 there, that's well number 13. And so what they found with well number 13 was that the flow and the pressure improved from that well. So it is possible that that valve was partially closed. We found that pressure from well number 7 improved, just the pressure, not the flow. And then that overall, the pressures were lower and closer to the hydraulic model, but they did not see an improvement in the flow coming from the wells. So that's more detail about those valves. Any questions on that? No, I have the question.
Is that because of we've had a drought for so long that rainfall has come down and the water is not coming, rain is not going down through and replenishing the
No, that really had to do with the hydraulics of the well field. You may, here's the branches in the different wells in the well field. And so those valves were broken. They just didn't know if the valves were open or partially closed. There was flow coming from them, but they thought maybe that the valves were restricting the flow. And so they went ahead and replaced the valves, hoping that that would bring more flow into the plant.
didn't increase it when
We didn't see an increase in flow, but
It means that there's something else that's wrong there. They
Right,
didn't
right.
want enough water out of the well. That's the reason I was asking about, is there less water being replenished in the well? Or that's why we pump out, or there's more sand in it and there's more something that doesn't allow as much water to come out.
we believe that it's the wells, that the wells are losing capacity, but it wasn't valves restricting the flow. So yes, we could try to rehabilitate the wells to see if we can get more capacity through those wells. Maybe there's incrustations or biofilm blocking those filter packs, preventing the water from coming through the well more easily. And that's why we're going to try to rehabilitate the wells. But Corolla is recommending that we expand the well field with additional wells.
Because I noticed also back.
Oh, can we get you in the microphone again? Sorry.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Can everybody hear me now?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
Good.
I can.
What are the wells? If we spend the $202 million, the design we don't really know how much more water we're going to get
That's
at
correct.
this time, because they really haven't done the whole study and know because they haven't really done the design. We don't know what it would be. We said okay, maybe double this, we're gonna design it to double, but we don't know what the outcome of that would really be.
Correct. So the first step in any kind of expansion would be a feasibility on the groundwater model or feasibility to see if there is additional well water that we can get and where that well water would come from.
Okay, I'm not gonna be here at next meeting, or maybe even the one after that. I'm gonna have open heart surgery next week, so I just thought I'd tell you that. That's why I'm asking some of these questions right now, and I'm not running for reelection, so this may or may not be my last
Mm.
meeting. The one after that, the one in April, May, I guess, would be the last one. One in May would be, but I just like, that y'all look at if the water that's going past there, if you look at the cost of treating that water, it may be less than it would cost to spend $200 million to do this other. Maybe for $20 or $30 million, you could treat that water and still, and have more water, or double the amount of water that you have now to use. It's just something I'd like to be considered.
It would definitely take a geologist that's looking at it, because you may recall, we replaced the 50 horsepower motors with 100 horsepower, trying to get more flow out of the wells that were already in place. And so we have, I want to say, four 100 horsepower motors. So to me, it's really going to take a geologist to figure out, what size of a horsepower of a motor we can, are we plugging in those wells faster? Someone needs to design that and study it, definitely, before we do anything.
I just remember walking down the end of the stairs one day, and I put my finger in the water there where it came out and tasted it. It didn't taste really salty. So that's the reason I asked.
Third stage, right?
That was my whole scientific study.
It's legit.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If we're going to increase our work and mode and on these wells and monitoring and so forth, do we have enough manpower to accomplish this, or are we faced with putting on additional staffing? If we're going to increase what we're doing with the wells, we're going to need more manpower, right?
Probably
Any
somewhat.
idea yet as to?
Honestly, I
that
haven't thought
program?
about that, but that you would think that would make sense.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, but you
Yeah.
got to factor that in the overall picture of things is I don't, just looking at it from a side view, we don't have enough material people to accomplish what you're setting out to do.
I don't believe so, no.
Knowing what is automated and what is not will be very useful, I think, going forward.
but
That's
it's
a
still-
very
it's
good
going to
point.
be- Still going to be a requirement of more people.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt at all. Do you have the numbers and how much closer we are to the models?
No, I don't.
Okay, that would also be useful just to see
I don't
yeah.
have them, but we can get those from Corollo. I don't know what program they use for the modeling. Maybe that's something that they can provide.
Be useful.
Okay. We talked a little bit about well rehabilitation. We have 330,000 in the budget because it is an O&M item expense. It's in the O&M budget. And so we have would you say a draft? The bid? So we believe this is going to happen this year. We just don't know if it's going to be 6 wells, 5 wells. It really kind of depends on the cost. We were hoping for 6, and that was based on an old figure, but hopefully we can get 6. And then there was a question, Dr. Holman, that you had brought to staff about whether or not we could reduce the throughput of the plant, and that would foul the membranes at a slower pace. And that is correct. If you were to reduce the plant, say to 50%, we would still need at least one operator at the plant to operate the plant itself. But whenever we do cleanings for, say, the microfiltration, that requires a separate operator to come in. And so we could have reduced the plant throughput, but then we would have reduced the plant throughput, if that makes sense. I mean, if we reduce the throughput, then everybody would have 50% less water.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so the idea, the reason behind the question was because we had reduced staffing during COVID, we let stuff slide that created some additional stress on the plant that we'll be paying for now. And so if we recognize that this happens, like we have a lesson learned and say, okay, instead of letting the important, things slide, we'll just reduce the water output. During COVID, we had a reasonable amount of water coming in from the reservoirs. I think it would be a lot harder question right now, but, things were different at the time. So if we give management that ability to say, hey, look, rather than cause these extra problems or
Right.
worry about these extra problems popping up, let's reduce throughput for, a year or whatever that number may be, so that we can kind of catch up to the fact that we have less staffing. Might be easier
Right.
on the staff as well, or one would assume, yeah. So yeah, that was the reason behind the
Yeah, yeah. Got us thinking. Thank you.
Yeah,
I think
good,
that's
good.
definitely a lesson learned. But bring it up to management for them to decide if they want less, then so we can, but now we didn't really know, I guess, that the membranes were fouling until not that that's an excuse, but now we know that
Right, right. No, I mean, and yeah, this is all part of a package of lessons learned, and it's not one thing. I mean, that's the important part, right?
Yeah.
A whole bunch of confounding factors came together at once. And yeah, now we're able to sit there and ask intelligent questions. So that's what I
Mhm.
want to do.
Yep, appreciate that. Okay, now we're going to talk about chemical optimization, one of your favorite topics. So this was a table that was provided by staff, just some of the starting dosages, some of the current dosages. So what we're trying to do is minimize the amount of chemical costs that we have at the plant without compromising the integrity of the equipment or the membranes, and still achieve the objective of providing good, clean water at a reasonable cost. So you'll see that just based on their calculations, we've saved approximately $11,677 a month, which projected out would be about $140,000 a year. So we have achieved some savings in that.
For those of you who aren't on the email chains, I got off an airplane at like midnight Friday night, and then Saturday morning at 7 o'clock or so. Yeah, I was sending Judy questions about this. So thank you.
And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for sticking with me. Any additional questions I can answer or try to answer?
Any
Takes
other
a
questions?
team.
No, I have none.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
all right, thank you.
So staff is going to be addressing and coming with an action plan. Mark is working very closely with them and trying to get some put together. You'll be hearing more in future meetings on where we're accomplishing and depending on where we're at on some of the things. We are concerned obviously with the drought situation that we have, and if all of y'all obviously are in a lot better situation than some of our neighboring cities that don't have any water whatsoever if the drought continues. As of as of January 27, our combined ownership is at 21.89%. It's been cycling, if you guys are tracking. And so I'm going to call our next presenter, which is Mr. Garcia, to come talk about drought and where we're at. And so we are watching this very closely. We are working with our Region M and Water Development Board, and we're looking into various different ways on how to optimize the system, but we thought it was appropriate to provide you the latest that we have.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yes, so like Marilyn mentioned, my name is Lupe Garcia. I am the Water Resources Administrator for Brownsville PUB. Thank you for having me, members of the board. We'll be doing a drought update. So currently, I did went ahead and made this graph just for visual representation where we're currently at. So we are at 21.9% as of January 27th, as Marilyn mentioned. So we are within that stage, drought stage 2 for the reservoir capacities for both Amistad and Falcon. So this is just a graph that shows the previous 3 years of data that we have been recording and keeping track of the reservoirs and what they've been doing from year to year. So for this year, for the 2024, we did start this year at 22%, but throughout the month, as the month has been going, it has been dropping. So we are currently at 21.9% of water conservation in both Amistad and Falcon reservoirs. As you can see here, for drought stage 3, that is at 15%. So 15% is our kind of trigger or one of the triggers, if I may clear that information for Brownsville PUB in order for us to go to drought stage 3. Based on this data that we have for the past 3 years, I was able to do a projection. Just the projection taking into consideration what the last 3 years have been doing. And you can see here in white, in white and the yellow dots are the numbers that this projection was kind of looking at. So based on the past 3-year trends, these numbers kind of have us going into drought stage 3 probably by the end of July. So that's something. This is taking into consideration not a lot of factors, right? It's just based on the information that we have had the past 3 years. A lot of factors are how rain at the reservoirs, water that we can get from Mexico, and upon many factors also contribute to this rainfall in our specific area, and furthermore. But this is just information that I can be able to provide to you all if anybody does ask kind of what is our projection looking like, well, it is looking like we could go into drought stage 3 by summer. So kind of what have we ever been in this stage before? Drought stage 3, we've never been into that stage at least since 1996. We have been in drought stage 2. The top kind of 3 records, 2 of those records are from the past 2 years. So in 2023, we were at 20.9% on November 11th. In August 13th of 2022, we're at 20.7%. And back in August of 1998, we were the lowest we've ever been, and then that's 19.1%. So that's just information kind of historical. But with that, I do conclude my presentation. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
No, I have none.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And that concludes the general manager's report, and we're moving on to item number 3.
Oh, sorry, I lost.
That's this discussion and on the date and time of the next board meeting.
Board meeting. Next board meeting will be 4. Yeah. I might be out of town.
Okay,
We'll get back to everybody on that. And then, of
I don't
course,
expect to be here.
right. I mean, wow, yes. So good luck with that, by the way. Well, I guess with that, does anybody have anything else they want to say or add?
To the 11th?
I think we might. I think we'll talk to staff about that and see what we can do.
you would like to move it to the March 11th?
Does that work with everybody?
It's a board meeting date for us at the PUB. Depends on,
Yeah,
That's
I
fine.
think. I'm good? Okay,
11?
okay.
so,
Everybody except for Ralph.
Yeah, well, just in case I don't get back to the May meeting or April meeting, I just wanted you all to know that it has been my honor, pleasure to serve on this board for many years, and thank you.
Now, I thought I heard something about you've been on this board for a decade?
I believe so, maybe a little longer. I've been a commissioner for 16 years and I've served most of that time on this board.
Wow, well, thank you. Thank you very much for all that
It-
time.
It's my pleasure. You know, and I've always been paid the same amount on all the boards I serve on.
It's amazing.
Yeah. I got about a 50-year record on that, so.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I know I've appreciated the small amount of time I've been able to.
Thank you. And
Serve alongside.
you're doing a great job as a chairman. I'm really impressed and really appreciate the way you're doing things and the questions you ask and the knowledge you have. And it's really refreshing. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I guess we can't quite kick off. I will entertain a motion to, call quit.
I so move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right?
Aye. Nobody ever says nay. Thank you.